The small town of Willow Creek rested quietly on the edge of a sprawling forest, its roads winding through lush green meadows and homes with white picket fences. Among its residents was Emily Harper, a 30-year-old teacher at Willow Creek Elementary. Known for her warm smile and the faint scent of chalk dust that always clung to her, Emily lived a simple but fulfilling life. She spent her weekdays surrounded by the chatter of children, her evenings grading papers, and her weekends retreating to her family's old wooden cabin just outside town. The cabin was her sanctuary, a place where she could sip tea on the porch, tend to her flower beds, and enjoy the company of her cat, Jasper. Life, though not extraordinary, was steady and peaceful. On one particular Saturday in early summer, Emily arrived at the cabin in her beat-up station wagon. Jasper hopped out first, stretching lazily before disappearing into the bushes. Emily carried her gardening tools to the backyard, humming softly to herself. As she knelt to dig up weeds, she caught a flicker of movement near the edge of the trees. Peering closer, Emily saw a scruffy-looking dog. Its fur was matted with mud and twigs, its ribs visible beneath the thin coat. The dog froze when it realized Emily was looking, its eyes wide with fear. "Hey there," Emily said softly, setting her trowel down and holding out her hand. "I'm not going to hurt you." The dog didn't move. Emily could see its hesitation, curiosity battling with caution. She didn't press further. Instead, she walked back to the porch, grabbed a leftover sandwich from lunch, and placed it a few feet from where she had been gardening. Then, she waited. For nearly an hour, Emily busied herself trimming the bushes while keeping an eye on the sandwich. The dog crept forward inch by inch, its nose twitching. Finally, hunger won over fear. It lunged for the sandwich, grabbed it in its mouth, and darted back into the cover of the trees. Emily smiled. Over the next few days, this ritual repeated. Emily left food on the same spot, and each time, the dog came a little closer, staying just long enough to devour the offering. By the fifth day, it no longer ran off immediately. "I think I'll call you Luna," Emily said one evening, watching the dog from her porch. "You're quiet and watchful, like the moon." Luna's ears perked up at the sound of Emily's voice. The breakthrough came a week later. Emily was sitting on the porch reading when she noticed Luna inching toward her. This time, she wasn't after food. The dog sat a few feet away, her head tilted as if studying the human who had been feeding her. "Hey, girl," Emily said gently, setting her book aside. She remained still, giving Luna time to decide. To Emily's surprise, Luna took a hesitant step forward, then another. She stopped just out of reach, but didn't retreat. Emily stayed patient, speaking in soft, reassuring tones. Eventually, Luna lay down, her wary eyes still locked on Emily. That evening, as the stars began to dot the sky, Luna fell asleep on the porch. Emily stayed close, a warm sense of accomplishment filling her chest. The following weekend, Emily decided it was time for a vet visit. She had already called Dr. Matthews, the local veterinarian, who agreed to squeeze them in for a checkup. The challenge, however, was convincing Luna to get into the car. Emily used every trick she could think of: treats, a leash, even coaxing with Jasper in the back seat. Luna resisted, but didn't bolt. After an hour of gentle persuasion, Emily finally succeeded. At the clinic, Dr. Matthews examined Luna thoroughly. "She's malnourished, but otherwise in decent health," he said, jotting notes on a clipboard. "We'll need to vaccinate her and check for parasites. Are you planning to keep her?" Emily hesitated. She wanted to say yes, but her tiny apartment in town wasn't ideal for a dog, especially one like Luna, who had likely spent her entire life outdoors. "For now, I'm just trying to help her get back on her feet," Emily replied, avoiding the weight of the question. Dr. Matthews nodded. "Well, she's lucky to have found you. Not many would go through this much effort for a stray." As Emily drove back to the cabin with Luna lying quietly in the back seat, she thought about Dr. Matthews' words. Luna wasn't just a stray anymore. She was becoming part of Emily's life, whether Emily had planned for it or not. Over the next few weeks, Luna grew stronger. Her fur regained its shine, her frame filled out, and her cautious nature softened. She followed Emily everywhere, even into the garden, where she would lie in the sun while Emily worked. Emily began to notice Luna's quirks. She was quiet, rarely barking, but incredibly observant. She had a habit of tilting her head whenever Emily spoke, as if trying to understand every word. And she loved the moonlight, often sitting outside long after Emily had gone to bed, staring at the night sky. It was during one of these moonlit evenings that Emily realized how much Luna had changed her life. The cabin, once a place of solitude, was now filled with warmth and companionship. But Emily also knew this couldn't last forever. She had to find a permanent home for Luna, someone who could give her the space and attention she deserved. For now, though, Emily pushed the thought aside. Luna was safe, happy, and loved, and that was enough. The days at the cabin slipped by, blending into warm summer afternoons filled with the quiet hum of insects and the soft rustling of leaves. Luna had become a fixture at Emily's side, her once gaunt frame slowly rounding out with regular meals and care. Emily couldn't remember the last time she had felt this grounded. There was something about Luna's silent companionship that brought peace, a quiet understanding that words couldn't quite capture. One afternoon, as Emily sat cross-legged on the porch, she watched Luna from the corner of her eye. The dog was stretched out under the shade of the oak tree, her body relaxed, but eyes constantly flicking toward Emily, as if afraid she might disappear. "You're staying, Luna," Emily murmured, half to herself. "I'm not going anywhere." Luna's ears twitched at the sound of her name, and she lifted her head slightly. It wasn't long before Emily realized just how deep Luna's attachment had grown. Each time Emily left the cabin to return to town for work, Luna would follow her to the edge of the property, sitting solemnly as Emily's car disappeared down the dirt road. When Emily returned on weekends, Luna was always waiting by the gate, tail wagging gently as if she had been counting the hours. One Saturday morning, Emily decided it was time to take Luna on a walk beyond the cabin grounds. With Jasper curled up on the windowsill, Emily clipped a soft leash on Luna's collar, bracing herself for resistance. To her surprise, Luna allowed the leash without protest. They followed the narrow dirt path winding through the woods, the air cool and fragrant with pine. Emily spoke softly as they walked, recounting stories from her classroom. "I swear, sometimes I think those kids are smarter than I am." Emily chuckled, glancing at Luna. "Maybe I should just let them teach the class." Luna's eyes flicked toward her, head tilting in that familiar way Emily had come to love. Halfway down the trail, Emily paused at a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a small stream. Luna padded forward, sniffing curiously at the water's edge. Emily knelt beside her, running her fingers gently through Luna's fur. "You like it here, don't you?" she whispered. Luna responded by pressing her body closer to Emily's side. The bond between them grew stronger each day, but Emily couldn't ignore the practicalities. She had noticed Luna occasionally limping, a faint stiffness in her right leg when she moved too quickly. Reluctantly, Emily scheduled another visit to Dr. Matthews. Loading Luna into the car proved easier than the first time. Luna hesitated but ultimately climbed into the back seat with a resigned sigh, her gaze fixed on Emily the entire drive into town. At the clinic, Dr. Matthews greeted them with a warm smile. "She's looking much better," he commented as Luna climbed onto the examination table. "You've done a great job, Emily." Emily smiled, but shifted nervously. "She's been limping a little. I thought it might be better to get her checked out." Dr. Matthews gently examined Luna's leg, his brow furrowing. After a few minutes, he straightened and jotted notes onto his clipboard. "It's nothing too serious," he said finally. "Looks like an old injury. She might have sprained it at some point while living on the streets. I'll prescribe some anti-inflammatory medication. Just keep an eye on her and try to limit her running for a while." Relief washed over Emily. She had feared worse news. "Thank you," she said softly, stroking Luna's head. As they left the clinic, Luna's tail wagged softly, as if sensing Emily's lightened heart. Despite Luna's recovery, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her time with Luna was temporary. As much as she wanted to keep Luna, she knew the small apartment she lived in during the week wasn't suitable for a dog, especially one who had grown used to open fields and the freedom of the woods. One evening, As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily sat on the porch steps, Luna resting at her feet. Jasper curled up beside her, purring softly. "You deserve more than I can give you," Emily whispered, her fingers tracing circles in Luna's fur. Luna tilted her head, eyes glimmering in the fading light. Emily sighed, pulling out her phone. She opened the Willow Creek Community Facebook page and began typing a post. "Hi everyone. I'm looking for a forever home for Luna, a sweet and gentle dog I found near my cabin. She's been through a lot, but is incredibly loyal and loving. If you or someone you know is interested, please reach out. She deserves a great home." Her thumb hovered over the post button for a long moment. Finally, she hit send. Within hours, Emily's inbox flooded with messages. Some were kind, others curious, but none felt quite right. Several families expressed interest, but Emily hesitated at each one. Late that evening, she received a message from Claire Thompson, a local woman known for rescuing stray dogs. "I'd love to meet Luna," the message read. "I have space on my property, and she'd have plenty of room to roam." Emily agreed to arrange a meeting the following week. The day of the meeting arrived. Claire pulled up in a truck, stepping out with a friendly wave. Luna, however, reacted differently. As Claire approached, Luna stiffened, her eyes narrowing with uncertainty. When Claire knelt down to pet her, Luna shrank back, pressing against Emily's legs. Emily's heart sank. "I guess she's more attached than I thought," Emily admitted apologetically. Claire smiled kindly. "That's not a bad thing. She trusts you." As Claire drove away, Emily knelt beside Luna, wrapping her arms gently around her. "Maybe this isn't the right time," she whispered. And for the first time, Emily began to wonder if Luna had already found the home she was searching for. The summer air hung heavy as the sun began its slow descent behind the trees. Emily sat on the front porch, sipping from a glass of iced tea, while Luna lay sprawled out at her feet. Jasper, curled up nearby, flicked his tail lazily. The cabin felt more alive than ever, but Emily couldn't shake the quiet tug of uncertainty that had settled in the back of her mind. Since the failed meeting with Claire, Emily had stopped actively searching for a new home for Luna. Part of her rationalized that the right person simply hadn't come along. The other part, the one she wasn't ready to admit, was afraid of what life at the cabin would feel like without Luna's constant presence. "Maybe you've already chosen me," Emily whispered, brushing her fingers through Luna's fur. Luna let out a soft sigh, leaning into Emily's touch. As peaceful as the moment felt, the unease lingered. The next morning, Emily woke early, greeted by Jasper, who perched at the end of her bed, but there was no sign of Luna. "She's probably out by the creek," Emily muttered to herself, slipping into her sneakers. But as the morning stretched on, Luna didn't return. By noon, Emily's casual curiosity morphed into anxiety. She searched the property, calling Luna's name through the trees and along the stream, but the woods remained silent. A strange sense of dread settled in her stomach. Luna had never wandered far before. By the time the sun dipped low, Emily's worry deepened into something sharper, fear. Near twilight, Emily decided to widen her search, hiking along the path that led to the old wooden bridge about half a mile from the cabin. Her footsteps quickened with each passing moment. The forest grew darker, the canopy overhead thick and suffocating. Just as she was about to turn back, Emily spotted a shape curled beneath the bridge's shadow. "Luna," she called, breaking into a sprint. Luna didn't move. As Emily dropped to her knees, she noticed the faint rise and fall of Luna's chest. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. Luna's fur was streaked with dirt, and her front leg was bent at an unnatural angle. A few small bruises dotted her side, and Emily could see the raw scrape along her hind leg. "Oh, Luna," Emily breathed, gently stroking the dog's head. Luna blinked weakly, her tail thumping once against the ground. Emily didn't need to be a vet to know Luna was in pain. She carefully lifted Luna into her arms, wincing as Luna whimpered softly. Back at the cabin, Emily wasted no time. She called Dr. Matthews, and within the hour, she was speeding toward his clinic with Luna curled up in the passenger seat. "She's been through worse," Emily murmured, more to herself than to Luna. You're going to be okay, girl. Dr. Matthews met them at the door, his eyes narrowing as he took in Luna's condition. She's hurt, but it doesn't look like anything life-threatening, he said after a quick examination. The leg might be fractured, though. We'll need x-rays to be sure. Emily sat in the waiting room, her knee bouncing nervously as she stared at the clinic's tiled floor. The minutes dragged on until Dr. Matthews reappeared, his expression unreadable. It's a clean fracture, but it's severe, he explained. She'll need surgery. I can stabilize the leg with a plate, but the recovery will take time. Emily's heart sank. How much time? Months, most likely. And even then, there's no guarantee she'll regain full mobility. Emily nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her. She didn't hesitate. Do the surgery, she said softly. Whatever it takes. Later that night, as Luna rested uncomfortably on a blanket near the fireplace, Emily sat cross-legged on the floor beside her, scrolling through her phone. The surgery wouldn't be cheap, and while Emily had some savings, it wasn't enough to cover the full cost. After a long moment of hesitation, she opened the Willow Creek Community Facebook page. Hi everyone. I know this isn't typical, but I'm reaching out for help. My dog, Luna, was injured recently and needs surgery to repair a fracture. Luna means the world to me, and I'm doing everything I can, but the cost is overwhelming. If anyone feels moved to help, I've set up a small fundraiser. Any amount, even the smallest donation, would mean more than you know. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Emily hesitated before pressing post. Her finger hovered over the screen for a long moment. Finally, she hit send. Emily didn't expect much. Willow Creek was a small town, and while people were kind, most weren't in the position to donate large sums of money. But within an hour, comments began flooding in. Sending prayers for Luna. I can pitch in $20. I shared this with my family, hoping you reach your goal. Luna's part of the Willow Creek family now. Count me in. By the next morning, Emily's fundraiser had already reached half of its goal. The generosity brought tears to her eyes. Sitting by the fire, she stroked Luna's head gently. You've got a lot of people rooting for you, girl, Emily whispered. Luna responded by pressing her nose into Emily's hand. For the first time in days, Emily felt hope blooming. The day of Luna's surgery arrived with the weight of a storm pressing down on Emily's chest. She had barely slept, her mind circling around possibilities, some hopeful, others much darker. As she pulled into the parking lot of Dr. Matthews' clinic, Luna shifted in the back seat, letting out a soft whine. It's going to be okay, Emily whispered, reaching back to gently scratch behind Luna's ear. We've come this far. We'll get through this too. Luna's eyes met Emily's for a brief moment, filled with trust despite the pain. Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. Dr. Matthews greeted them at the entrance, his expression calm but serious. She's in good hands, Emily, he assured, leading Luna gently into the clinic. Emily knelt beside Luna one last time before they took her away. I'll be here when you wake up, she promised. Luna licked Emily's hand softly as if to say, I know, and then she was gone, disappearing behind the clinic doors. Emily sat in the waiting room, her phone gripped tightly in her hand but untouched. Time seemed to stretch and fold in on itself. Every tick of the clock echoed louder than it should. She scrolled through the fundraiser page absent-mindedly, watching as more donations trickled in. The comments from friends, strangers, and even some of her students' parents warmed her heart. Luna's lucky to have you, Emily. Hope she pulls through. Our dog went through something similar last year. Hang in there. Let us know if you need anything else. We're all here, for Luna. The tightness in her chest eased slightly, knowing they weren't alone. When Dr. Matthews finally emerged, Emily stood so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. She's out of surgery, he said, offering a small but reassuring smile. It went well. The fracture was clean, and we managed to stabilize the leg with a metal plate. She's waking up now. Relief crashed over Emily, and she felt tears sting the corners of her eyes. Can I see her? In a little while, Dr. Matthews replied. She'll need to stay overnight, but if all goes well, you can bring her home tomorrow. Emily nodded, blinking back the tears. Thank you for everything. Dr. Matthews gave her shoulder a light squeeze. "It's what we're here for." Returning to the cabin without Luna felt strange, wrong even. The space felt larger, emptier. Jasper sensed the absence too, pacing near Luna's usual spot by the fireplace before finally curling up beside Emily on the couch. Emily tried to distract herself by grading papers, but the silence pressed down on her like a heavy blanket. She caught herself glancing toward the door more than once, expecting to see Luna's familiar face peering in from the porch. Finally, she opened her laptop and wrote a quick update on the fundraiser page. Luna's surgery went well. She's resting at the clinic and should be able to come home tomorrow. I can't thank you all enough for your support and generosity. Luna and I are both incredibly grateful. Almost immediately, likes and heart emojis flooded the post. Emily smiled faintly. The community's kindness a small but steady light in the quiet cabin. The next afternoon, Emily returned to the clinic. As soon as Luna saw her, the dog's tail thumped weakly against the kennel. "Hey there, sweet girl," Emily cooed, crouching down to press her forehead against Luna's. "Let's get you home." Dr. Matthews handed Emily a list of post-surgery care instructions along with medication for pain and inflammation. "Take it slow. She'll need rest, but short walks can help with circulation after the first week." Emily nodded as she carefully lifted Luna into the car, wrapping her in a soft blanket. Luna limped gingerly through the cabin door, pausing to sniff at familiar corners. Emily set up a cozy spot by the fire, layering extra blankets and pillows for Luna to rest on. Jasper sauntered over, cautiously sniffing Luna's bandaged leg before curling up beside her. For the first time in days, Emily felt at peace. Over the next few days, Luna's recovery became a slow but steady routine. Emily juggled her teaching job during the week while returning to the cabin each evening to care for Luna. She left Jasper behind to keep Luna company, always returning to find the two curled up together by the fireplace. A week later, Emily noticed Luna struggling more than usual. The dog's limp had worsened, and she seemed reluctant to put weight on the injured leg. Concerned, Emily called Dr. Matthews, who scheduled a follow-up appointment. Sometimes swelling can cause discomfort. Dr. Matthews explained as he examined Luna. "Let's try adjusting her medication. If it doesn't improve, we may need to take another look at the implant." Emily felt her stomach twist. The possibility of another surgery loomed over her like a dark cloud. That evening, Emily sat by the fire, watching Luna doze peacefully. Jasper purred softly beside her. As the flames flickered, Emily's mind wandered to the conversation she had avoided for weeks. The reality that Luna might need more care than she could provide. The small apartment in town wasn't suitable for a dog with limited mobility. Luna needed space to roam, not cramped hallways and concrete sidewalks. Emily sighed, running her hand gently along Luna's back. "What am I going to do with you, girl?" Luna opened one eye, as if sensing Emily's inner turmoil. "Maybe there's still someone out there looking for you," Emily whispered, though the words felt hollow. But deep down, she wasn't sure she was ready to say goodbye. The soft crackling of the fire filled the cabin as Emily sat cross-legged on the floor beside Luna's bed. The dog's steady breathing brought a measure of comfort, but Emily's heart remained heavy. It had been 2 weeks since Luna's surgery, and while the initial progress was promising, the past few days told a different story. Luna's limp had worsened, and even short walks left her visibly exhausted. The medication helped, but Emily could see the fatigue in Luna's eyes, the way she hesitated before standing, as if the effort alone was too much. Jasper padded quietly across the room and settled next to Luna, curling his body gently against the dog's side. Luna let out a soft sigh, nuzzling into the cat's warmth. "You two are quite the pair," Emily whispered, reaching down to stroke Luna's head. For a brief moment, the weight on her shoulders lifted. Later that week, Emily heard the crunch of tires on gravel and glanced out the window to see Claire Thompson's pickup truck pulling into the driveway. Emily hadn't expected a visit, but the sight of Claire stepping out, arms full of supplies, warmed her heart. "I thought you could use some extra blankets and treats for Luna," Claire said with a smile as Emily opened the door. "That's incredibly kind of you." Emily replied, stepping aside to let Claire in. Luna, who had been resting by the fire, perked up at the sound of Claire's voice, but made no effort to stand. Claire knelt beside her, scratching behind Luna's ears. "She's tougher than she looks," Claire said softly. "But I can tell she's still hurting." Emily nodded, sinking onto the couch with a sigh. Dr. Matthews adjusted her medication, but I can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. I'm afraid she might need another surgery. Claire's eyes softened with understanding. "You've done so much for her, Emily. More than most people would. I just want her to be happy," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She deserves more than this." Claire was quiet for a moment before she spoke. "If you ever feel like you can't handle it alone, my offer still stands. I've got the space, and Luna would have room to recover properly." Emily's chest tightened. She appreciated Claire's kindness, but the thought of parting with Luna felt like a wound she wasn't ready to face. "I'll think about it," Emily replied, offering a small but grateful smile. The next morning, Emily woke to find Luna unable to put any weight on her injured leg. Panic surged through her as she knelt beside the dog, gently coaxing her to stand. Luna tried but whimpered softly, immediately collapsing back onto the blanket. Emily's heart pounded. She grabbed her phone and called Dr. Matthews. "Bring her in," he said without hesitation. "I'll take another look." The drive to the clinic felt longer than usual. Luna lay silently in the back seat, her head resting on Emily's jacket. "It's going to be okay," Emily murmured, though the uncertainty in her voice betrayed her own doubt. Dr. Matthews greeted them with a calm but serious expression. After a thorough examination and a second round of x-rays, he sat Emily down in the exam room. "The plate is intact, but there's significant inflammation around the joint," he explained, pointing to the scans. "It's likely her body is reacting to the implant. We may need to remove it once the bone stabilizes." Emily swallowed hard. Will she ever walk normally again? Dr. Matthews hesitated. "It's possible, but there are no guarantees. She may always have a limp, and if the pain continues, long-term management will be necessary." The weight of his words settled heavily on Emily's shoulders. "What can I do for her in the meantime?" she asked quietly. "Keep her comfortable. Limit her movement as much as possible, and continue with the medication," Dr. Matthews replied. "I know this isn't the news you were hoping for, but Luna's strong. She's come this far because of you." That evening, Emily sat on the porch steps, watching the stars emerge in the dark sky. Luna lay nearby, her head resting in Emily's lap. For the first time, doubt crept in fully. Was she doing the right thing by keeping Luna with her? Would Luna be better off with someone like Claire? Someone with experience and space for a dog to recover properly? "You deserve the best, Luna," Emily whispered, her fingers trailing through the dog's fur. Luna nuzzled closer, as if sensing the conflict in Emily's heart. As the night deepened, Emily found herself scrolling through Claire's messages, her finger hovering over the call button. But each time, she hesitated, unable to press it. Instead, she wrote another post in the Willow Creek community group. "Thank you to everyone who has supported Luna's recovery. She's had a minor setback, but we're staying hopeful. Your kindness means the world to us. Luna's journey isn't over yet, and I'm grateful for every step we've taken together." The responses came quickly. Words of encouragement, offers to help, and even a few stories from others who had faced similar challenges with their pets. Emily felt the knot in her chest loosen slightly. She wasn't alone, and neither was Luna. Over the next week, Emily followed Dr. Matthews' advice to the letter. Luna's movements were limited, and Emily rearranged the furniture to create a safer, more accessible space for her. Each day, Luna grew a little stronger. The limp persisted, but the pain seemed to ease. One afternoon, as Emily was tending to the garden, she looked up to see Luna standing on the porch, watching her with bright eyes. "You're up," Emily grinned, walking over to stroke Luna's head. Luna wagged her tail gently, the first real sign of joy Emily had seen in days. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting long golden streaks across the cabin floor. Emily woke to the familiar warmth of Jasper curled at her feet and the soft rhythmic breathing of Luna nearby. For the first time in days, Luna had slept soundly through the night. Emily sat up carefully, glancing toward Luna's bed by the fireplace. Luna lifted her head, eyes half-lidded but alert. Her tail gave a slow, gentle thump against the floor. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Emily whispered, crossing the room to kneel beside her. She ran her fingers through Luna's fur, feeling the steady rise and fall of the dog's chest. "How are we feeling today?" Luna didn't try to stand, but the light in her eyes was brighter, more alive. "That's progress," Emily murmured, leaning down to press her forehead against Luna's. In the weeks following Luna's setback, life at the cabin shifted into a slower, more deliberate rhythm. Emily adjusted her schedule, driving to town for work in the mornings and returning to the cabin by mid-afternoon. She spent evenings tending to Luna's recovery, gently guiding her through short walks along the garden path, careful not to push too hard. At first, Luna resisted, her steps hesitant and unsteady. But Emily was patient, showering her with praise for even the smallest effort. "You're doing great," Emily whispered one evening as Luna managed to walk the length of the porch without limping. "I knew you could do it." Jasper trailed behind them, ever the silent observer. The cat had grown protective of Luna, often curling beside her during naps or licking her ears affectionately. Emily couldn't help but smile at their bond. "You've got yourself a fan club," Emily teased. Luna wagged her tail in response, nudging Jasper gently with her nose. One afternoon, as Emily was weeding the garden, she heard the crunch of gravel beneath tires. Peering down the driveway, she saw Claire's familiar pickup truck approaching. Emily wiped her hands on her jeans and walked to meet Claire as she stepped out of the vehicle. "Hey there," Claire greeted with a warm smile, carrying a large bag of dog treats and a plush toy tucked under her arm. "Thought I'd stop by and see how Luna's doing." "She's hanging in there," Emily replied, gesturing toward the porch where Luna lay, her head resting on her paws. Claire crouched beside Luna, offering the toy with a soft chuckle. "I figured you could use a new friend." Luna sniffed the plush animal curiously before gently taking it in her mouth, her tail wagging faintly. "She likes it," Emily observed, grateful for Claire's kindness. As Claire settled onto the porch steps, she glanced at Emily thoughtfully. "You've done a remarkable job with her, you know. I wasn't sure how things would turn out after the surgery, but she's come a long way." Emily sighed, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "It hasn't been easy. There were days I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing by keeping her." Claire nodded knowingly. "It's hard to let go, even when you think it might be what's best." Emily looked down at Luna, who had begun chewing lazily on the toy, her eyes half closed with contentment. "I thought about calling you more than once," Emily admitted. "But every time, I couldn't go through with it." Claire smiled softly. "Maybe that's your answer." That evening, as Emily prepared dinner, she found herself reflecting on Claire's words. Luna's condition had stabilized, and while she might never fully regain her old strength, there was no denying that she was happy at the cabin. Emily glanced over at the fireplace, where Luna lay dozing with Jasper curled beside her. "You belong here, don't you?" Emily whispered. She hadn't realized it before, but Luna had become more than just a temporary guest. She was family. The thought brought a warmth that settled deep in Emily's chest, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of uncertainty began to lift. A few days later, Emily received an unexpected call from Dr. Matthews. "I wanted to check in on Luna," he said kindly. "How's she doing?" "She's doing well," Emily replied, smiling. "We've been taking things slow, but she's moving better, and her spirits are high." "I'm glad to hear that," Dr. Matthews said. "Listen, I've been thinking. Luna's case has caught the attention of a local organization that specializes in therapy animals. They're interested in meeting her, if you're open to it." Emily's brow furrowed. "Therapy animals?" "Yes," Dr. Matthews explained. "They work with dogs who've overcome adversity to help children and adults with trauma. Luna's resilience and gentle nature could make her a perfect candidate." Emily's heart skipped a beat. The idea of Luna helping others tugged at something deep within her. "I'll think about it," Emily said after a pause. Later that evening, as Emily sat on the porch with Luna resting at her side, she thought about Dr. Matthews' offer. Luna had already changed Emily's life in countless ways. Perhaps, Emily thought it was time for Luna to do the same for someone else. She leaned down, pressing a kiss to the top of Luna's head. "What do you think, girl?" Emily asked softly. "You up for a new adventure?" Luna's tail thumped gently against the wooden floor. Emily smiled. For the first time, she felt like they were exactly where they were meant to be. A soft breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the faint scent of pine and wildflowers. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the cabin floor as Emily sat at the kitchen table, absently stirring her tea. Her phone rested in front of her, Dr. Matthews' offer lingering in her mind like an unanswered question. Luna lay by the fireplace, her plush toy still nestled between her paws. Every so often, her tail gave a lazy thump, as if reminding Emily she wasn't alone in her thoughts. The idea of Luna becoming a therapy dog both intrigued and unsettled Emily. Luna's resilience was undeniable. She had faced abandonment, injury, and recovery with quiet strength. But the thought of sending her away, even temporarily, brought an ache to Emily's chest. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Emily admitted aloud, glancing at Luna. "Are you?" Luna lifted her head at the sound of Emily's voice, her brown eyes soft and trusting. "You'd be amazing," Emily whispered, reaching down to scratch behind Luna's ear. "But I'd miss you." The words hung in the air, unspoken emotions weaving between them. The next morning, Emily drove to Willow Creek for groceries. The streets buzzed with weekend activity. Families strolled along the sidewalks, and children darted between market stalls. Despite the lively atmosphere, Emily's thoughts remained tethered to Luna. At the town's small bookstore, Emily found herself wandering into the pet section, her fingers trailing over book spines until one caught her eye. Healing Hearts, the role of therapy dogs in trauma recovery. She pulled it from the shelf, flipping through the pages. Stories of dogs transforming lives filled the chapters. Dogs who had once been abandoned or injured, but went on to bring comfort to others. One passage caught her attention. Sometimes, the very animals who need healing the most become the ones who heal others. Emily closed the book slowly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. When Emily returned to the cabin, Luna greeted her at the door, wagging her tail as if nothing had ever been wrong. "Okay," Emily said, crouching to stroke Luna's head. "Let's give it a try." That evening, Emily called Dr. Matthews. "I've thought about your offer," she said. "I think Luna's ready. Let's set up a meeting." Dr. Matthews sounded pleased. "You're making the right choice, Emily. Luna's temperament is perfect for this kind of work. I'll arrange for the organization to meet her next week." As Emily hung up the phone, she glanced at Luna, who had sprawled out by the fireplace again, tail swishing contentedly. "You're going to make someone's life better," Emily murmured. "I just know it." A week later, Emily found herself standing outside the Willow Creek Community Center with Luna by her side. The center had transformed its back lot into a training ground for therapy animals, complete with obstacle courses, quiet spaces, and areas designed to simulate real-life environments. Luna stayed close to Emily as they approached a woman with short blonde hair and a clipboard in hand. "You must be Emily and Luna," the woman greeted warmly. "I'm Megan, the head trainer here." Megan knelt down to Luna's level, extending her hand for the dog to sniff. Luna hesitated, but eventually leaned forward, giving Megan's hand a gentle lick. "She's a gentle soul," Megan observed, standing. "That's exactly what we look for in therapy dogs." Emily felt pride swell in her chest. The session began with simple exercises. Luna was guided through walking calmly by Emily's side, responding to gentle commands and interacting with others. Megan watched closely, jotting down notes. "She's doing great for her first time," Megan remarked. "With the right training, she could be fully certified in a few months." Emily smiled, kneeling beside Luna to offer praise. "You're a natural girl." That night, as Emily prepared for bed, doubt crept into her thoughts. The session had gone well, better than she had expected, but the lingering question remained. Was she ready to let Luna go, even for a few hours a week? Jasper leapt onto the bed, curling up at Emily's side. Luna followed shortly after, settling down on the rug near the foot of the bed. Emily listened to the soft rhythm of Luna's breathing, realizing that whatever happened, this cabin would always be Luna's home. No matter where you go, Emily whispered into the darkness, you'll always have a place here. Luna shifted slightly, pressing closer to the bed as if she understood. Over the following weeks, Luna's training continued. Each session built upon the last, and Luna's confidence grew with each passing day. She learned to stay calm around loud noises, approach strangers with ease, and even provide comfort by laying her head in someone's lap. Emily watched with quiet pride, though each session also brought a pang of bittersweet realization. Luna was no longer just the stray she had found under the bridge. She was becoming something more, something bigger than Emily could have imagined. One afternoon, as they drove home from training, Emily glanced at Luna in the rearview mirror. You've come so far, she said softly. I'm proud of you, Luna. Luna's ears perked up at the sound of her name, and she wagged her tail, as if to say, I'm proud of you too. As autumn rolled in, Emily received an email from Megan. Congratulations! Luna has officially passed her therapy certification. She's ready to start working with patients at Willow Creek Rehabilitation Center. Let me know if you'd like to join her for the first few visits. Emily read the message twice, a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling inside her. She glanced at Luna, who lay by the fireplace, completely unaware of the new chapter awaiting her. You're ready, Emily said aloud, smiling. I guess it's time to share you with the world. Luna lifted her head, thumping her tail softly against the floor. The first chilly morning of autumn arrived quietly. Leaves danced across the porch as Emily stood by the cabin window, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise peek through the trees. Luna lay at her usual spot by the fireplace, resting her head on her plush toy. Today wasn't just another day. Today, Luna would begin her journey as a therapy dog. Emily had read Megan's email half a dozen times, feeling both excitement and apprehension. The idea of Luna stepping into a new role brought pride, but the thought of watching her bond with others stirred a strange sense of protectiveness. Luna was Emily's anchor, her steady companion through the difficult and quiet moments. The idea of sharing that bond felt complicated, but Emily knew, deep down, this was Luna's path, one she couldn't stand in the way of. You're going to be great, Emily said softly, crouching beside Luna to stroke her fur. Luna lifted her head, gazing at Emily with quiet understanding, as if she already knew what lay ahead. By late morning, Emily and Luna arrived at Willow Creek Rehabilitation Center, a modest facility nestled at the edge of town. The parking lot was half full, and the air smelled faintly of pine and damp earth. As Emily stepped out, she glanced at Luna, who sat calmly in the passenger seat, ears perked with curiosity. You ready, girl? Emily asked, opening the door. Luna hopped down gently, landing with surprising grace for a dog who had once struggled to walk. Her limp had lessened, but it was still there, a quiet reminder of the journey that had brought them to this point. Megan greeted them at the entrance with a bright smile. Perfect timing, she said, kneeling to pet Luna. We've got a few residents eager to meet her. Emily nodded, feeling the subtle tug of nerves. She kept a hand on Luna's leash as they followed Megan down a softly lit hallway lined with paintings of the nearby woods. She'll be fine, Megan reassured as if sensing Emily's unease. Therapy dogs have a way of knowing what people need. Just watch. Their first stop was the center's community room, where a handful of elderly residents sat reading or quietly chatting. A few heads turned as Luna entered, but one man, seated by the window, straightened immediately. Is that the dog you were talking about? He asked, his eyes brightening. Megan smiled. This is Luna. Emily's been fostering her. Luna's here to meet everyone. The man set his book down, leaning forward slightly. His hands, weathered and thin, trembled as Luna approached. She's beautiful, he murmured, extending his hand. Luna sniffed it gently before resting her head on his knee. For a moment, no one spoke. The room seemed to hold its breath. The man's fingers traced lightly over Luna's ears, and a faint smile tugged at his lips. I used to have a dog like this, he said softly. After my wife passed, she was the only thing that kept me company. Emily watched from a few feet away, her throat tightening at the quiet exchange. Luna stayed perfectly still, as if sensing the weight of the man's memories. As the session continued, Luna moved gracefully between residents, offering comfort in the form of gentle nudges and soft, expectant eyes. One woman, who hadn't spoken much according to Megan, quietly asked to hold Luna's leash. For 10 minutes, the woman sat silently, running her fingers through Luna's fur, lost in thought. "She hasn't smiled like that in weeks," Megan whispered to Emily. By the time the visit ended, Luna had made her rounds, leaving behind a room filled with lighter hearts and brighter faces. As they walked back to the car, Emily couldn't stop smiling. "You were amazing," she whispered, crouching to hug Luna. "I think you just made a few people's day a little better." Luna wagged her tail, licking Emily's face gently. That night, as Emily settled back at the cabin, she found herself reflecting on the day's events. There had been something profound about watching Luna interact with others, watching her bring comfort in a way Emily hadn't fully anticipated. She realized then that Luna's journey wasn't just about healing others. It was about healing Emily too. Since finding Luna, Emily's world had expanded. Her days felt fuller, her heart lighter. Luna's presence had taught her patience, resilience, and most of all, how to open herself to possibilities she hadn't imagined before. For so long, Emily had thought she was the one rescuing Luna. But perhaps she thought it was the other way around. "You're more than just my dog," Emily whispered as Luna curled beside her on the porch, the stars beginning to scatter across the night sky. "You're my family." And Luna, resting her head on Emily's lap, seemed to understand. In the weeks that followed, Luna's role at the rehabilitation center expanded. She visited every Wednesday afternoon, quickly becoming a favorite among the residents. Emily began accompanying Luna less frequently, trusting Megan and the center's staff to guide her. It was a gradual shift, but one that felt right. Luna had found her purpose, and in doing so, she had helped Emily find hers. As autumn deepened, Emily knew that no matter where Luna's path led, the bond they shared would remain unbreakable, a quiet, steady force that had brought them both home. The late autumn air carried a crispness that hinted at the approach of winter. Leaves crunched softly beneath Emily's boots as she walked along the forest path behind the cabin. Luna trotted ahead, her tail swaying gently with each step. Though her limp was still faintly noticeable, Luna moved with ease and confidence, a stark contrast to the fragile, hesitant dog Emily had first found beneath the old bridge months ago. As they approached the creek, Luna paused, turning back to glance at Emily, as if to ensure she was still following. "I'm right here, girl," Emily called, smiling as she crouched by the water's edge. Luna padded over and sat beside her, nuzzling into her shoulder. This spot had become their refuge, a place where Emily often came to reflect. Today felt different. Today marked 1 year since Luna had wandered into Emily's life. Emily ran her hand through Luna's fur, listening to the soft babble of the stream. So much had changed in the past year. Quiet, subtle shifts that reshaped Emily's world in ways she hadn't expected. Luna's transformation mirrored Emily's own. What began as an effort to help a stray dog had evolved into something far deeper. Luna had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even the most broken souls could heal with time and care. "I never thought we'd make it this far," Emily whispered, scratching behind Luna's ear. "But look at us now." Luna let out a content sigh, resting her head on Emily's lap. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Emily found herself thinking about the past year, the doubts, the small victories, and the countless moments of quiet companionship that had filled the days. She thought of the residents at the rehabilitation center, how Luna's visits had become a highlight in their routines. Each time Luna rested her head on someone's lap or offered her gentle, unwavering presence, Emily felt a swell of pride. Luna wasn't just Emily's dog. She had become a source of comfort and healing for so many others. Later that afternoon, as Emily sat on the porch, Jasper curled on her lap, she spotted a familiar truck pulling into the driveway. Megan stepped out, carrying a small envelope and a bouquet of wildflowers. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Megan said, climbing the steps with a warm smile. "Not at all," Emily replied, shifting Jasper to one side. Luna patted over, greeting Megan with a happy wag of her tail. "I wanted to stop by and give you this," Megan said, handing Emily the envelope. "It's from the staff at Willow Creek Rehab and a few of the residents." Curious, Emily opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten card, signed by many of the people Luna had visited over the months. "To Luna, the dog who brought light into our lives. And to Emily, who shared her with us. Thank you for reminding us that kindness, in any form, can change the world." Emily felt tears prick the corners of her eyes as she read the words. "They adore her," Megan said softly, sitting beside Emily. "And I think they appreciate you just as much." Emily swallowed the lump in her throat, blinking away the tears. "I never expected this. I just wanted to help her." "And you did," Megan replied. "But I think Luna ended up helping all of us." As the sun began to set, Megan rose to leave. Before stepping off the porch, she glanced at Emily. "You know," Megan began, "we've been looking for someone to help with the therapy dog program, someone who understands the bond between animals and people." Emily tilted her head curiously. "I think you'd be perfect for it," Megan continued. "You have the heart for this work, Emily. And Luna would be right by your side." For a moment, Emily said nothing. The idea lingered, stirring something deep within her, a sense of purpose that felt strangely right. "I'll think about it," Emily said finally, smiling. Megan nodded. "No rus. Just know the offer's there if you're ready." As Megan's truck disappeared down the road, Emily sat in silence, her thoughts drifting. The idea of stepping into a new role, one that allowed her to share Luna's light with others, felt less like a distant possibility and more like the next natural step. She glanced at Luna, who had settled back by the fireplace, the flickering flames casting soft shadows across her face. "What do you think, girl?" Emily asked. "Should we take this next step together?" Luna's ears twitched at the sound of Emily's voice, and her tail thumped gently against the floor. Emily smiled, knowing the answer was already clear. As winter settled over Willow Creek, Emily officially accepted Megan's offer, stepping into the role of therapy dog coordinator for the local program. Each week, she and Luna visited schools, nursing homes, and community centers, spreading warmth and comfort wherever they went. Luna's quiet strength and gentle spirit became a beacon for those in need, and Emily found herself healing alongside them. One chilly morning, as Emily and Luna crossed the old wooden bridge by the creek, Emily paused to look down at the water. "This is where it all started," she said softly, crouching beside Luna. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" Luna pressed against Emily's side, gazing at the creek as if she, too, remembered the day they first met. "We've come a long way," Emily continued, "and I wouldn't change a thing." As they stood there, the wind whispered gently through the trees, carrying with it the quiet promise of new beginnings. And for the first time in a long while, Emily felt completely at peace. Luna had found her forever home, not just by Emily's side, but in the hearts of everyone she touched. And in saving Luna, Emily had saved herself.